back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be covering another set of superstar abilities within Madden 24. Which ones are going to be the most impactful for the receiver position within this game? This is a relatively straightforward set of abilities. There are quite a few abilities out there available to receivers, but there are certain ones that just simply set themselves apart for what they're able to do for your receivers within this game. There are a handful of ones that I would emphasize targeting with your receivers because they're going to make a massive difference between a general development, and that would be a normal or star dev development receiver, and a superstar plus receiver. So first, we're going to take a look at Puka Nacua here and some of the abilities that I personally like the best for the receiver position. The single ability that I would label as the most important ability to have on a receiver, though it takes a high overall to achieve, is Route Technician. Receivers with this ability have a high success rate when creating separation on the last cut of any route. That is going to be the most useful in the most cases on any receiver within the game. Separation is everything for receivers within this game. Depending on what you're playing, whether it be arcade or franchise, your receivers are going to play a little bit differently, especially with how they go after the football and those types of things. But what's going to prevent dropped passes and interceptions more than anything else is just flat out separation between your receiver and the defensive backs, and being able to get a high success rate and create separation on the last cut of any route is going to be extremely effective at getting you better catches, getting your receivers open, creating that separation that is necessary to make things happen on offense within Madden 24. One of the biggest things that I notice with my receivers is that oftentimes you will get animations, you will get separation, you will get open catches with these superstar players that you just simply won't get with other guys. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to include a bunch of gameplay video in here with this, but you can go try it out. Just as a personal example, Ben Perez here is a fantastic receiver with 97 speed, 99 acceleration, 98 agility, 99 change of direction at this point. He has upgraded tremendously, but he is very often still covered by a defender in relatively close proximity. But when I throw the ball to a guy like a Cooper Kupp or a Puka Nacua, they have a tendency to break away from defenders much further than even Ben Perez does. And even just looking at a guy like Cooper Kupp with just 89 speed on him, yeah, he's got good excel, good agility, good change of direction, but with just 89 speed, he gets a lot more separation on his cuts than Ben Perez does, and that is because of the abilities that we're able to add to them. And so Route Technician is one of the most important ones in my personal opinion, because that separation is going to be everything, and Cooper Kupp also has Route Technician. Now, a second ability that you'll notice that is on both of my receivers, new to receivers, was not originally a receiver ability, is Acrobat. Players with this ability are more likely to succeed and attempt diving catches and swats. So that is really important for getting even more animations that you wouldn't already get. If a ball is slightly overthrown, if a ball is slightly underthrown, you might get these receivers diving to make a catch that otherwise a receiver would not be able to make, and they'll be successful in doing so. So not only are we getting better separation with these receivers, which is absolutely huge in and of itself, but we are getting better animations that are keeping us away from defenders because we're getting diving catches and those types of things that are going to be really useful. This was and still is the most overpowered ability on secondary defenders on defense, and therefore it is justifiable to want to have it on offense and be able to counteract some of that. So having Acrobat is crazy. You can get some just huge jumps. Imagine getting a crazy break off of Route Technician and then getting a crazy diving catch off of Acrobat. The amount of separation that you can get with those two abilities combined with that triggering animations and stuff is just super overpowered. I mean, Cooper Kupp is really going downhill here now at 33 years old and a 90 overall, but he is still the leading receiver on my team, and he's absolutely cracked because of his abilities and really not because of anything else, just because he gets open and he makes crazy catches all over the field. Another ability that I like a lot for a receiver, typically you're not going to have your superstar receivers in the slot, but it makes sense in this case because Cooper Kupp is slowing down and I have that faster guy for the outside of the field. Matchup Nightmare can be really, really effective at the receiver position. Receivers with this ability make sharper cuts and frequently win contested catches when covered by linebackers and linemen. This is what you're going to get with a slot receiver. You're going to be covered by linebackers a lot of the time, whether it be man or zone coverage, sometimes potentially linemen, but generally speaking linebackers. And so this can help in those situations as a slot receiver, catching over the middle, catching in short areas of the field where maybe an outside linebacker is dropping to the flat or something like that. This is going to make a really good receiver. And like I said, Cooper Kupp is leading my team in receiving yards because he just simply gets open and catches what I throw to him because of his combination of abilities. Don't get me wrong, his ratings are really good, but his ratings aren't by any means better than Puka Nacua, and he just gets open all the time, and so I'm able to hit him. He even gets open downfield. So crazy, crazy abilities here that you want to have on your players. There are other abilities that are worth mentioning, though. An ability that I do like a little bit and I've been testing out is grab and go here with Puka Nacua. After securing a rack catch, ball carriers with this ability can quickly shift momentum, change direction, and turn the corner without sacrificing speed. I have found that this is oftentimes useful with outbreaking routes. To get a rack catch just before you go out of bounds and you're able to turn back upfield and get going up the sideline. Oftentimes you probably have noticed that your receivers will catch the ball and there's nothing you can do to prevent them from just going out of bounds, whether it be the catch animation or it be them just running in that direction and not having the ability to break as easily. This allows them to catch it and basically immediately turn upfield, which can be very, very useful in a lot of situations, especially if you like to throw to the sidelines, which I like to do quite a bit. Now, those are some riskier throws as far as interceptions are concerned and those types of things, but that's not really what this video is about. So grab and go can be really effective for your receivers as well. And now we're going to take a look at Marvin Harrison Jr., who has been in the league here for a couple of years. He has some other interesting abilities. Of course, he has route technician on him, but there are some other route related abilities that are going to help you with catching, help you with separation and those types of things. So we'll cover those in a second. I do want to address XFactor abilities here. You have the choice between double me, rack 'em up, max security, first one free, wrecking ball, yak 'em up, grab and smash, and ankle breaker. To be personally honest with you, I do not find a ton of use for XFactor abilities on receivers, but that's because we play franchise mode on simulation, so I'm sure that's different for arcade style game modes and those types of things. A lot of times what I'll see on receivers is just simply double me. When they enter the zone, this ability increases their success rate on aggressive catches against single coverage, which is probably the most useful because a lot of times with these guys, you're in one-on-one coverage and you're going to be going up for aggressive catches. You want your receivers to be able to go up and get a ball in those 50-50 situations and come down with it at a more than 50-50 rate, if that makes sense. Some of these other abilities are useful and some of them aren't. If I were to tell you to pick any other than double me, which I think is the best one, I would maybe say yak 'em up. When they enter the zone, they are nearly guaranteed to break their first post-catch tackle, which can be really, really useful. And that actually might be better than double me. It just depends on what you're expecting out of your receivers. If you don't have trouble with your receivers going up and making those aggressive 50-50 ball catches, then go with yak 'em up, because that means you're going to then break the tackle after you catch the football and get extra yardage off of that. But those are really the only two that I personally like as XFactor abilities. The other ones have their uses. I'm not going to speak negatively about them because they're not totally useless for these positions. It just depends on what you're doing with your receivers. And then we move on to the remainder of the superstar abilities, and I'm not going to go through every single one of these because there are a ton of them, but we can kind of talk about them in groups. So you have your apprentice abilities that are going to affect being able to use extra hot routes. Not particularly useful in my personal opinion. And then you have a bunch of what I would just call elite abilities, route elite abilities. So you have like mid out, short in, and then the two that we already have on, deep in, mid in, elite. These abilities allow you to catch more consistently in certain areas of the field, which is important for your high overall receivers. So if you are not worried about separation so much, like I typically am, then you might want to focus on some of these ones. The only thing I don't like about them is that they are for specific areas of the field. So you are specifically targeting medium routes, passes 10 to 20 yards from the line of scrimmage and outside the number. So like each one of these abilities is a very specific area of the field, and so you're not getting as all-encompassing of an ability as you are with some of the ones that we've already mentioned. So they are very good, but it takes having multiple of them to build a really good receiver off of those abilities. Personally, I would prefer to get the more all-encompassing abilities that are going to affect you on almost every single play. Honorary linemen can be surprisingly good. This is going to allow you to get better blocks on the edge. So I know the meta right now is to run a lot of outside runs, stretch plays, and that type of things, and those can fail if your receivers aren't getting good blocks on the edge. So this can actually be kind of a broken ability to have on those outside receivers to help seal the edge and just spring you for extra yardage downfield. And then you have a bunch of other ones that I don't personally consider all that useful, like second win, return man, energizer, recuperation, run off elite. They're kind of niche ones that affect things like stamina or their return ability and those things. Not really something you're going to want to have on your receivers. Sometimes you'll get a guy like a Cordarrelle Patterson that might be given superstar by the game and has like return man on him specifically, and that can actually be beneficial, but not something that I've had too much issue with. I still get kick returns right now by just having fast players. That's honestly the best recipe. So when it really comes down to it, I would recommend Acrobat, like I said, Route Technician, Grab and Go is a pretty good one, Matchup Nightmare, but then just below those ones, I would also consider Slotomatic, which is going to allow receivers lined up in the slot to make faster cuts and have better hands when catching passes less than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. Again, very useful for those slot receivers. And then red zone threat is actually really, really solid. When in the red zone, receivers with this ability have a better chance to win contested catches against single coverage, which is very often. Those are going to be your top of the line abilities. And then I would consider going with the route elite abilities, as I called them, the mid outs, the short outs, the deep ins, the deep outs, and those types of things. And then maybe take a look at some of the other ones, but that is really the hierarchy for the abilities for receivers within Madden 24, in my personal opinion, especially with the gameplay that we have. Again, that could be slightly different for online gameplay, that could be slightly different for arcade style MUT gameplay, but I personally like Acrobat, Route Technician as my top abilities because they are just absolutely insane. With that being said, I hope that you guys found this video useful in some way. What I would like to hear from you down below in the comment section is what you do with your receivers. Do you often go after or try to build up superstar and XFactor receivers? I like to start off with lower overall receivers and build them up personally. I had somebody in this league that traded for Justin Jefferson to the Commanders, so they like to have a really stacked receiving squad from the get-go. It's just interesting to see the difference of how people go about building their receiving room. I would be curious to hear your opinions down in the comments, like I said. Please leave a like, leave that comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. As always, I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.